Today we will be talking about the guy who is perhaps my greatest friend on 9b9t, Conan MC. Now, I have been asked by Conan himself to narrate it with my own beautiful voice, so you can bring your pitchforks over to him. At any rate, Conan accomplished relatively little in-game, but his actions within the community majorly altered the server history, either by pure happenstance or because of severe miscalculations. An unrepentant cloutchaser, Conan significantly contributed to shaping the mentality of the 9b9t community in its older days. I will be trying my best to focus on the in-game part of it, but even then, much of this story will not happen on 9b9t itself, but rather on Discord, YouTube and Reddit, since those were Conan's main weapons. Now, let's get into his story. Following the Camping Rushers 2b2t video of June 1st, 2016, Conan discovered Anarchy and went looking for alternatives. After trying out many Anarchy servers, including, unironically, mine Texas, Conan stumbled on 9b9t. His first impact with the server was rather peculiar. Considering he had already explored other older Anarchy servers, he was a bit taken aback by 9b9t's self-proclaimed veterans killing people at spawn dressed with their majestic, unenchanted iron armor. At any rate, he escaped spawn easily, and after grinding for a while, he soon ran out of ideas. After lava casting a random place away from spawn out of pure boredom, he met a player called Pablo the Plug in chat, and after some talking, they started a base together. They traveled decently far for 2016 standards, using the fact that the nether roof was still enabled. However, not long after the base was established, Pablo quit, leaving Conan to despair in his loneliness. Conan was really poor and had no idea of how to do, so he turned to doing what all people who are poor and lonely do, building map arts. His hope was to get some community recognition and meet some people by trading map arts around. However, as map arts were becoming a bit of an oversaturated market at the time, he only accomplished the latter. Certainly, he met a few people important to his story. James, who would become his true first basemate since Pablo's disappearance, Fraz T0, that would be myself, with whom we started talking more and more through Discord, and 99Y, the man that later would accidentally steal his identity. Conan tried to use the subreddit to advertise his maps at first, but they were met with a lukewarm reception, so he started thinking of other ways to obtain recognition. And then, as he was listening to Seyodo's Green's You Can't Podcast With Us the podcast, inspiration struck him, just as Wagnus was proclaiming to the whole world that he was such a big player. Conan got to work and began creating memes on the subreddit which would use Wagnus' face, or rather Fibbler's drawing of it, but were targeted at those he perceived as the big players of the server, that being the K2 and Auschwitz cliques, despite him not really knowing most of them. He peaked with the Scooby-Doo themed meme that remained in the top 3 most upvoted posts on the subreddit until 2019. He was 9b9t's rising star, people started recognizing him in-game. This is how he met Jot. However, no matter how much he gained in popularity, he didn't seem to be accomplishing his goal of being invited to NBT, since K2 had been blown up in the meantime, or Auschwitz. He got kinda close with Fraz, as I mentioned, but his basemates at Auschwitz knew better than to let him freely invite whoever he wanted. In June, Jot was invited to blow up NBT by his friend Remastered COD, and he in turn invited Conan to tag along. Conan then made a big mistake. He accepted the invitation, intending to play both sides. He had heard rumors about NBT's illegals, and he hoped to snatch some for himself. But he also absolutely didn't want to make enemies of the NBT players, so he secretly messaged the NBT people and told them that, during the raid, he was going to try and keep rare items away from the others. And since Remastered COD was planning to make a new base with the stolen materials from NBT, he also promised them that he was going to rat it out to them as soon as he was established. Except he failed on all the line. Jot managed to outplay him and pocket all of the end portal frames for himself, and without saying a word to the others. The only thing Conan managed to somewhat save was the angry emoji map art, and not even fully, since LTNK aka Sunken MC managed to get a copy. And to top it all, Remastered COD quit after the grief and didn't make a base for Conan to rat out. An increasingly nervous Conan then convinced Jot to give him his solo base so that he would have something to give to the NBT guys, promising him more player heads than those they got in the raid in exchange. Conan then offered the coordinates for Fibular, asking for more player heads, and Fibular delivered, except they were all heads that Conan and Jot already had. Conan had lost most of his respect in the community, and as for the MBT guys, while remaining friendly with him in private, they had to publicly disavow him to save face. During this time, Conan did not stop making memes. He pioneered the meme meta of movie footage with face-tracked Minecraft faces for 9b9t. When, in 2017, the Nimbledon, a massive meme and shitposting competition that involved everyone on the subreddit, was launched, everyone thought that Conan had it in his pocket. Nobody could beat him on a technical level, and his Clash of the Big Players series, for the time, was unmatched. Except that his now good friend Fraz took the concept and did it better. Conan placed second in the competition, which destroyed his ubiquity as the king of memes on the subreddit. At least the Nimbledon took everyone's minds off the MBT raid. Conan was invited to Auschwitz shortly after. However, Conan once again proved his ability to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He invited Fraz to his 2016 base, which was still standing and somewhat active. Coincidentally, mere days after Fraz made his way there, a sign popped up at the base. A player called 99Y, a completely unfamiliar name, claimed he had found the base. Very coincidentally, 99Y also seemed to have stolen the base's only valuable things, some player heads and a full music disc collection that Conan and iMac James had patiently grinded. Less than a week later, despite the bases being on two different highways, a 99Y sign pops up at Auschwitz as well. Paranoia completely overtook the base members. As 99Y had no Discord presence, and since his name didn't seem to be familiar to anybody, people began assuming that he was an alt account, and finger-pointing time came. Many people were accused of being 99Y, notably Miniman392, one of the two founders of the base, Flowers101, a known spawn fag, and, of course, Conan himself. Conan's original base would be griefed by 99Y and Flowers101, and a few days later, Jot and MacPlanet obtained coordinates to Auschwitz and would grief it themselves. Of course, as far as Auschwitz was concerned, the culprit was quite obviously Conan MC, aka 99Y. In the months after that, partly because 9b9t was semi-dead and partly because of the 99Y rumors, it was really hard for Conan to find a new base. In early 2018, Conan created a new home for himself, NBHQ0, which he founded with Jot. Nothing much of note would be built at NBHQ0 other than a few map arts, a packed map art museum from all the members contributing, a library full of books about random players, and a massive carpet duper. But this base did accomplish a lot in terms of connecting a lot of players who had never based together previously. Jot, Frasty0, WTD Puddles, Broken Griffin and Iceland would have their first experiences basing together there, and would eventually branch off to do bigger things together. After the base was griefed by Jared 2013, Conan's presence on the server became near non-existent, though he remained part of the community for long. Another thing Conan started in early 2018 was this very YouTube channel, which he created with Corrupted Greed. However, it remained unused until Fraz was involved in the project. Working together, they produced the channel's first video, a meme comparing Nambinenti history to Greek mythology. Since then, Conan's activity on the server was minimal. He founded the pit base, which Iceland would do most of the actual digging at, and he was also present at Creed 2, Soup Base 2, and Nisa despite contributing very little to any aforementioned bases. During the 2019 April's Fools event, he helped WTD Puddles kill the Ender Dragon and win the contest. He remained present, mostly as an admin on Public, where he most notably created the presidential election system, until he finally quit in February 2021. This was it for Conan. I hope I did him justice because some of this stuff is absolutely golden. We won't be seeing each other for a few days, might have another episode coming out next week depending on how much materials I manage to gather, otherwise I will see you on the 14th for a double episode.